There. Ooh, that's
Whose good idea was this that we should get person meeting?
It's
How much fun is it to see each other in person? Hi, and let's do a treat. All right,
Yeah.
who is? Are you starting the meeting up?
I call the meeting to order, yes.
Okay, the meeting is called to order. Hannah, I think you were reading the land acknowledgement. Yes.
I am. Thank you. Sorry, I'm not able to be there in person. But before we begin, we acknowledge we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Lummi, Nooksack, Samish, and Semiahmoo people who have cared for and tended this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with some introductions. And one of the things that is especially great about whenever we come together in person is we actually remember who we are. Because it's like, do you remember last time we met? We had no idea who each other was because on Zoom it's such a artificial. You should just be able to pull hard. You got it. Okay. Yay, you're here. Come on in. So what we thought we'd do for intros is you say your name, where you hearken from, and then you're going to, as best you can see this, we thought it would be fun to locate ourselves relative to the sequential intercept model. So does this look familiar? All right, I'm going to just stand up here and point. There, intercept 0 if you're in community services, right? Intercept 1, law enforcement. Intercept 2, initial detention and initial court hearings. Intercept 3, the jails and court systems. Intercept 4, re-entry. And intercept 5, community corrections, post-incarceration, and community supports. And if we're going to make this as a circle, that would work too, right? So if you're involved in the whole thing or more than one, you can say that. If you don't know, it's okay. But that's what we thought we would try. Okay, you want to start with them?
Thank you for that opportunity. Thanks for letting me join. My name is Elizabeth Boyle, and I'm not officially in any of those things, I guess.
You're overall.
Sure.
Well, sure. And tell us what your position is.
I just got elected to county council. So.
Yay!
Thanks for.
Glad you're here. Thanks.
Hi everybody, I'm Courtney. I'm the newest member of the council. I just got elected as youth representative.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you. Born and raised Bellingham, Washington, and I guess I could be considered part of all of those things and none of those things if you want. Just member of the community.
And we're so glad to have you and have our youth representative seat filled again. Yeah.
I am Pam, and I am, I think, in Intercept 5 as a community support, supportive housing. I represent supportive housing. I work in supportive housing. Oh, where am I from? Where do I, okay, well, Washington State for sure, various places, in 20 years military, so all over the world. So I'm always glad to be here and be a part of this, and supportive housing is so important, and I hope our government continues to support that area, because I get the pleasure of seeing people turn it all around.
Hey everyone, my name is Miriam. I'm local. I'm executive director of the Law Financial Equity Commission, also a JPOP member. I think similar to you, Corey, we're kind of everywhere but nowhere. This, it's kind of hard to define. And where am I from? Well, I'm an immigrant. I've lived in Washington State since I was 14. So yeah, just kind of here and also back home.
Thanks, Mary. Rob, I'm just going to pause one sec. I'm just realizing that The distance is a little tricky, so just everybody, if you can try to remember throughout the meeting when you speak, to speak like you're projecting to those people who are not here. Thank you.
Bob Sullivan, Regional Director for Pioneer Human Services. I oversee Whatcom Fox and I-2 in Oak Harbor. And I'm in Intercept Zero.
I'm Peter Fraser. I hearken from Bellingham and Washington. And I am the co-chair of the Incarceration Prevention Reduction Task Force, which is all of the industries.
Hi, I'm Caleb Erickson. I'm the Chief Corrections Deputy with the Sheriff's Office from Bellingham. And I am Intercept 2.
My name's Riley Sweeney. I work for the County Executive's Office doing communications, a lot of it around the Justice Project. Today I hearken from the Emergency Operations Center where I've been working for the last week. So I apologize if I'm doing some emailing. Your work is important and I want to give you as much attention as it. So I just want to apologize in advance. There's some stuff going down. And I guess I'm, 0 and 5 telling everybody all about the cool systems we have in place. And maintaining community support for the system.
I'm Stark Follis, I'm the Whatcom County Public Defender, and I am really from Whatcom County. My family homesteaded in this county in 1866. So I've been around for a while, and other than a few brief stints in Seattle and Alaska, I've been here all my life. Oh, intercepts. I would say 2, 3, and 4. Kind of the middle of the beast, so to speak. The right to counsel is triggered by either the charging or the arrest of somebody, so we aren't appointed until that point, and we are with increasing frequency working through reentry and beyond that.
My name is Tasha Thompson. I am an Intercept 1. I am a police officer for the city of Linden. I started my career in law enforcement for Bellingham. I worked there for 25 years and then been at Linden for coming up on 3 years. I grew up in Linden. Yeah, been in Whatcom County my entire life, except for a year when I went to college.
Hello, I'm Jason Corneliuson. I work in the city of Bellingham, specifically for Mayor Kim Lund. I am the Strategic Initiatives Manager for Health and Human Services for the city. My role kind of takes me in and out of various rooms and meetings related to all of these intercept points. However, I probably most closely associate with Intercept Zero, just given my previous career as a direct service provider and current role as a planner and operator of the emergency severe weather daytime warning center, which kind of operates in partnership with the county's overnight emergency shelter. We only had to activate 1 day so far this season, but temperatures look like they might be going down next week, so we might be back in business. We will see. Lifelong Washingtonian, lived in Bellingham from 99 to 2015-ish. Currently reside in Skagit County, and our house is above water. But so, good. Glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Andrew Mitchell. I'm with the Bellingham Municipal Court. I recently started a therapeutic court, a community court back in March. So, yeah, that's who I am and where I work. I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska. I moved here about 20 years ago, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Brenda Ford, and I guess I'm involved in 2, 3, 4, and 5 now. Unfortunately, due to a family member who is mentally ill, that's now, in the justice system. And so I think there's a huge need at the state level to help us get help for mentally ill family members before they get to the crisis level where my son is. And I've been on my, I find it interesting because my brother-in-law was a therapist within the penal system in California and has found a lot of things that are working there. They have a good program to sort of try to keep people from incarceration. And that's what, but anyway, he's a mental health therapist, and I'm also a member of NAMI, and so I'm very interested to hear, yeah, what's happening and how I can get involved to help the situation. What brought you? Pardon? What brought you? Just some research and talking to folks, yeah, on the phone, and yeah.
And they told you about the J-pop committee and that you might.
Yes, I think I talked to somebody in the justice program, or yeah. Anyway, thank
Great.
you.
Okay, let's do the people online then. Maybe
Can you
stop
yeah,
there for
I
a minute?
can.
That might be easiest.
I can just pull up participants. How's
Oh,
that?
there we go. Okay, Brian, go ahead. Mr. Estes, are you there? Okay.
I am here.
Hi.
Sorry. I'm Brian Estes. I'm the co-chair of the Task Force's Behavioral Health Committee, along with Dan Hamill. And I'm also on the board of directors of NAMI Watcom, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and member of NAMI Washington's Public Policy Committee. So I have a lot of interest in the proceedings of this group.
Great, thank you. Glad you're here. Okay, Dan Hamill, you're up.
Hey there, good afternoon. Dan Hamill, Bellingham City Council, and like Brian just said, we're co-chairs together for behavioral health. I've been on the task force for a long time, since its inception. Between City Council and the task force and behavioral health, I think we pretty much touch on every intercept you see before you. It's all important work too. So anyway, welcome to the new folks. I look forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dean.
I'm Dean White, and I'm a special projects manager with the Health and Community Services Department and the Response Systems Division. And I've been involved with a lot of other people in developing many of the diversion programs that are functional for several of the intercept points.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Sheriff Tanksley. Tank, are you there? Okay, you're on mute. I'll come back to you. Anna.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am a clinical director for community-based mental health services, so doing behavioral health and reentry. We are primarily in Intercept 0 and 5 with community services and community supports, but we also have some programs like our Pact and New Journeys programs who are involved with specialty courts, specifically mental health courts. So we find ourselves in Intercept 3 and Intercept 4 as well, because we have a lot of referrals from the jail and supporting individuals with reentry. So kind of all over the place except for Intercept 1 and 2.
Jessica. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jessica Navedo. I'm a community member. My grandparents grew up in this area. I grew up in California and I've been here since 2017. Over the last year, I've been having a lot of conversations with different community members about the new jail. So I'm here kind of trying to figure out how you're working and kind of make sense of the conversations that I've been in and some of the things that I'm seeing on the website, and just try to understand the development process a little bit better right now.
Glad you're here.
Thanks.
Marta, can you see if you can unmute Tank?
Yeah. Let me see.
Who's having some problems with?
I can ask him to unmute.
Yeah. Hey, how about, I see you're typing, Tank, so I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna read what you're saying in a second. So Stephen, you're up. Stephen!
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephen Gockley. I am a former task force member former Behavioral Health Committee co-chair. I have been involved in the implementation plan and oversight of that from a non-J-pop position. And I am the chair of the Health and Community Services Department's Behavioral Health Advisory Committee. I think my interests these days fall in Intercept 4 and 5, reentry and post-incarceration issues. And glad to see you all in person there. Thank you.
Great, glad to have you. Okay, Hank says, I touch all points. Indeed, Sheriff Hanksley. Indeed. Okay, do I get everybody? I see oh, Mary Lou, are you there? I see your name, but I see your ceiling. Okay, when you come back, you can check in. Is there anybody I missed? All right, good. We're good to go. Well, that was fun. It really speaks to, I think, the conversation we had at our last thing about the importance of coordination. Like, we really are a really, I think, poised as the J-pop, because we touch so many places in the system and across the system. So that was awesome to hear that. Okay, let's move on and jump into our agenda. We have a lot of good stuff today. So we're going to go through, well, we've got Riley here, and we can adjust if we need to, just to hear how the community engagement workshop went for the jail BCC. And then we'll report out on the progress we're making on the data dashboard, follow up on our discussion at our last meeting on the presentation that the Whatcom Racial Equity Commission did on their data about racial inequities. And then look at our action plan. That's one of our main parts today, is really looking at that calendar. Did you guys get a chance to look at it before you arrived? Perchance? No.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who did, thank you. We just want to make sure we got a plan for the year ahead. That's our goal. Okay, so let's jump in, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Riley.
Hi, everybody. Journey with me in a magic time machine back to the old days of November 20th. I know it is a little less than a month ago, but it feels like aeons ago. We had over 100 members of the public show up in the beautiful Pioneer Pavilion in Ferndale and talk about the Justice Project. And they didn't just talk about, they had like meaningful discussions with people diving into all sorts of dimensions of the project. So I saw many of you there. Thank you, everybody who showed up. For those of you who weren't, it looked a little like this. Everybody showed up. Peter Frazier gave a great welcome along with the sheriff and Councilmember Barry Buchanan. And then we had stations set up all around the room that covered different aspects: jail design, behavioral health, questions and answers, hard questions, right? Timeline, how we're doing on the Justice Project so far, right? We had like all the implementation goals with big check marks or not check marks next to the things we've done and haven't done. And my favorite part, because I'm big on interactive activities, were these lovely jars. So everybody who showed up could pick up a jar, and the jar had represented the Justice Project as a whole, because what we wanted to incept into their brains is that we can only do so much, right? But that's no fun if you just say, well, we've only got 150 million bucks, what are you going to spend it on, right? We want them to kind of think about the trade-offs that they're going to make. So we gave everybody a jar, and it had dirt in the bottom, and the dirt represented the soft costs, the dollars we were already going to spend: wetland mitigation, hiring an architect, right? Like, you can't change that. We had black beads, which represented behavioral care center beds, right? And every black bead equaled about 2 behavioral care center beds. We had white beads that represented administrative space, so your rapid reentry center, offices for our fantastic correctional staff to hang out, places where the people can get their GED, right? Like all those sorts of things that are part of the jail. A courtroom space, right? So that they can do some of those court functions at the jail, right? And then blue beads were jail beds, right? Straight up jail beds. It was an oversimplification, and there's plenty of ways you can slice and dice it, but at the end, you can only fit so much in a jar, right? And so we got jars that looked like this, and we got jars that looked like this, and I only had 2 hands, so I didn't grab a third jar that had all black beads. There was a lot of jars that had all black beads. So it was really cool. And I think my favorite part was I knew that we had enough community members in the room when I got to watch Paul, our county executive, Paul Sadu, get harangued about the evils of capitalism and its intersection with the prison industrial complex. And then the next person told him that he needed to build a 1,000-bed jail tomorrow. So we really got the scope of opinion contained within Whatcom County showed up and had really meaningful conversations. So that's what we did. Here's what happens next and what is happening. While people were there, we had them fill out paperwork about how we would measure success, right? Because we want to know, what do you think a win looks like? And what was good is that there was lots of different answers, but a lot of them boiled down to, hey, we should probably have less people in jail, or the people who we really want to be in jail, there's room for them, and everybody else is not in jail, right? They phrased it in lots of different ways, but that was kind of the main takeaways there. And then we also had a, like, hey, what do we need to know, right? Thoughts and questions. And boy, golly, did we get lots of thoughts and or questions. Everything from, hey, you should have childcare at the next event, right? To more money needs to go to behavioral health. The opening speech urged us to challenge the status quo, yet I didn't feel like we were challenging enough, right? Like all sorts of really fascinating feedback. We took a lot of that and we summarized it and we emailed it out to everybody who gave us their email when they signed in. So as best as I could interpret their handwriting. So all those people are now added to our email distribution list and get our monthly Justice Project newsletter, which I know you all read religiously. Thank you. But they all got that update in which we said, hey, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Here's all the things we heard. And we summarized stuff from conversations and the feedback we got. So that people know that we heard it and it's being included in our conversations going forward. And we let them know that we will be doing another community engagement workshop probably in early 2026. So I've heard February, but nobody's allowed to say dates out loud. So we're still working on location and details, but that's kind of our next shot, in which we will do more fun interactive activities as people weigh in on the specific options as we pick the size, scale, and scope of our Justice Project facilities. Any questions? Anything I missed? A lot of you were there.
That was great, Riley, and thank you for speaking up and setting a great tone there. That was wonderful.
Always.
That was just perfect.
That's great. Well, I hope you can stay. You
Yeah.
have to.
I can stay, I just will be emailing while I stay. I'm multitasking. Again, I'm sorry for that. But we got a new shelter open.
So that's great.
The Nooksack Tribe Community Center, we got that open for flood displaced people. So, and now we get the news out.
That is great. Okay. So thank you for that update. I think next time, if you can just give us as the J-pop, Riley, just like an extra, like, don't forget, show up. It'd be great if all the J-pop could come to these and also help get the word out. So if you could, we're here to help.
I emailed everybody on the J-pop email list.
Yeah.
Multiple times, including Ben Allenboss.
Well, good job.
And
All right.
And I want to encourage everybody to sign up for that Justice Project e-newsletter if you haven't already. It's an excellent way to keep track of what's going on with the projects. Thanks, Riley. Peter.
One note from the event was that I had a great conversation with a woman named Erin Fortenberry, who had sent us a letter, the IPRTF, her interest in bail reform and such. And she came. We had a good conversation. Now she's on the criminal, or the Legal and Justice Committee.
Oh.
I'm just really pleased that she showed so much interest, and we're or it'll get involved.
Okay, anything else people want to add? Who were there at the event? Okay, well, let's keep moving then to our next item. Here we go. So update on data dashboard, that's you.
Okay, that's me. All right. I'm going to start by just going back to the Justice Project Evaluation and Performance Measurement Plan that Village Reach did for our community. And that is a document, it's excellent, and it's one that we are relying on heavily as we think about how to move forward with evaluation and with a data dashboard. That document had 4 near-term priorities, near-term being defined as 6 to 12 months. 3 of them are designate a dedicated role to the operationalization of this plan. That's like a staff person, a person hired to oversee all of the work that needs to be done to coordinate data collection, management, data sharing agreements, construction of a data dashboard, et cetera. Second one is establish shared indicator definitions. Julia Julia from Village Reach pointed out that terms such as recidivism really need a clear, agreed upon definition in order for us to measure it. If you can't name it, you can't measure it, or some such saying. What is the saying?
Can't define it.
Yeah, thank you. If you can't define it, you can't measure it. Okay. And then the third one is conduct a next generation SIM mapping workshop. SIM is that sequential intercept model that we saw at the beginning. And a workshop is going to be happening in February. Stay tuned for that. Fourth, operationalize early reporting activities. Activate reporting on indicators for which there is existing data availability is the first part of that. The second is build draft public-facing dashboards. Going to just say there's an emphasis on draft here. We are trying to do this right now. Before Holly and my contract that we currently have ends at the end of this month. So we are doing everything we can to identify existing available data and put it into a draft dashboard, a low-tech version of what we hope someday will be a full and fancy dashboard. Hi.
Okay, and to clarify, we did get another contract specifically to keep on supporting the J-pop.
Yes.
So that's great, but we are not going to be able to, the data dashboard thing is kind of, we're jamming right now. We get as much done as we can.
Yep.
Okay, I feel like there's feedback. Are you hearing it? Is there somebody who has a computer on that can maybe turn it on mute? Sorry, are you on mute? You're muted. I'm muted.
Are you, remind me your name? I know I've seen Hannah Edelman. Okay, thank you so much. What? I'm glad you came over. And there's tea, juice, and cookies over there. Yeah, help yourself. Yeah. Okay. So the way that we are have been going about doing this work is that first we're contacting data holders to request data. These are, we have from the Evaluation and Performance Measurement Plan, long lists of indicators. And we just went through and thought about, I wonder who would be likely to have data related to these particular indicators. And we reached out to them. What we're aiming for is data that is already collected on a regular basis, so we know it will continue to be collected. And we also know maybe it has been collected for a while, so we can look back and then we can look forward. We want data that's easily accessible, so people aren't having to go to a lot of trouble to create complicated reports just for this. We want it to be easily accessible to the public. We want it to be reliable, and we want it to be of interest to us and the public. We're getting what we can, and then we're drafting little summaries and charts, visuals, and then we are sending those back to the people we got the data from to check us and make sure that they feel good about how we've put things together, and they say, okay, you can use this. Then we are going to send all the approved stuff to our friends at the county who are going to post this on the IPRTF Justice Project website sometime during, ideally, January. This needs to be considered a living piece because we will continue to get stuff to add to it, but it is also very temporary. So while we need it, we'll just keep building it. And then when there's something better, which there will be, it will retire. So some examples of data we have, I'm just going to run through these. So thanks to Rob and his colleagues at Ann Deacon Center, we have some data on utilization of the detox and triage units at Ann Deacon Center. We're looking at numbers served and bed use. We're looking at how, interrupting myself just to say these questions. How much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anybody better off? You might recognize those from when we have talked about results-based accountability. So that's the structure we're using for thinking about this information presented today. So how well did we do it? We're looking at individual status upon leaving detox or triage. What happened at the end there? And then is anybody better off? We have amazing gold mine that the health department produced called Whatcom Health Insights Dashboard. If you haven't looked at it, I highly recommend it. And that dashboard has the information that we'll use to look at long-term impacts of Justice Project work. And those include things like, is health improving in Whatcom County? And we can look on there and see suicide death rates, drug overdose rates, poor mental health days as examples. From the diversion programs, we've got some very nice reports from Mental Health Court, LEAD, GRACE, and ART. And so we have utilization data there. For how well did we do it? We have service connections made, and we're looking at things like emergency medical services usage before and after LEAD and GRACE. And then they have some lovely statistics about costs avoided when for jail bookings or EMS, because they've brought down the utilization of those services by the people they serve. Is anybody better off? We can say for mental health court, we can say things about housing, better housing, mental health, quality of life, employment, and education. Also for mental health court, average number of charges before and after they were involved with mental health court, and average annual jail bookings and days in jail before and after LEAD. So different things from the different programs. They're tracking different outcomes, but we're just grabbing what we can from those programs, and that seems interesting. With the jail data, we've been working with Caleb and the folks at Information Technologies to come up with the booking data. Now, a lot of this is online already, and we're just digging into it a little further. So number of individuals booked and total bookings, also looking at race and gender, because as you may remember, there are in the implementation plan that is guiding us and the evaluation and performance measurement plan, we want to disaggregate by race and gender whenever possible. So we've asked for that. Bookings per year, daily population, average length of stay, and bookings by agency. That means what jurisdiction is bringing the person in to be booked, so we can look across the county. And then one of these, back to health longer term impacts, is safety improving in Whatcom County? And we can look at Bellingham Police Department reports. I have not gotten any from other cities in the county, but we have Bellingham reported incidents and number of violent crimes. And then the Health Insights also has violent crime rate and intentional injury hospitalization rate. So that sheds some light on that. Looking ahead, this so this interim dashboard, like I said, is reporting on indicators for which we have data. And this is goes along, what we're doing goes along in partnership with all of these reports that we've been producing on the 15 implementation plan projects. So those are all available too for people who want to look at it by project. And this is another reference to the quarterly report that Riley's team produces, the newsletter, the summaries that we've been producing. So all of those will be on that dashboard too, just all together, where you can go to any of those. And then we're just trying to lay the foundation for this future dashboard to measure our progress on performance measures and outcome measures. And that's that. So does anybody have any questions about any of that?
And I want to do
Jessica.
little process point. So if you're a member of the JPOP, or you're somebody who's been coming regularly because you have a key position, you know, that we need you here, I invite you to jump in. Otherwise, if you're a guest here, then we do have time at the end for public comments. So if you have a question or comment, just save it, if you would please, and we'll catch you at the end. Okay, so, but I do see Brian Estes, so, all right.
And Jessica.
Brian, go ahead. Yeah, but Jessica's not a member.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, did you want me to speak?
Yeah.
So I had a question or concern, I guess, about some of the terminology we're using in terms of talking about outcomes, when in my view, what we're really measuring is outputs. And I think it's important methodologically to be as accurate as we can. And anytime you talk about outcomes, it's always a question of over what period of time. So as many of you know, I'm sure, a correlation is not causation. And I just think we need to instill some methodological rigor in the way we're using some of these terms. So I'm just going to kind of put that out there as a concern. And I'll leave it at that. And I'd be happy to talk about this in more detail at a later setting if people were interested.
Thanks, Brian. And I just want to, I think that's a really good point. And we have that question of how much did we do? That's outputs. If anybody, you know, we're just to translate from one kind of way of talking about it to another, that we have a lot of outputs. How much did we do? And then how well did we do it? Maybe outcomes there. And is anybody better off? Those are the outcomes. And we'll try and really distinguish those when we present it. So thanks, Brian.
When you say how are we better off? How are we measuring that? Because I think it's not just on the person going through, but overall the entire community. Like, how are you measuring community? Does the community feel safer versus just, we did all these things, but correlating it? And I don't think that just grabbing violent crime numbers or incident numbers through police are always going to be the most accurate, because, you know, over the last 5 years, they've changed even how we take the report. So there's other things that fluctuate those numbers that have nothing to do with what we are doing. in these other things. So I guess I appreciate all the work you've done. I think those are great things. I think the county numbers should be able to be available to have an analyst that would give you those numbers soon as done. The county does.
I think this, as we start looking at what we've got, we're gonna be able to see like, what do we wish we had?
Yeah.
And then that, we could talk a lot about this, but I think that's the whole idea. Like, that's a key part for us, is to figure out how we're gonna make this transparent, how we're gonna have the right information, how we're gonna share it with each other in the public. So thank you for flagging that, and Brian for your comment too. And Jessica, I see your hand, but I'm gonna hold you to the end of the event, end of our meeting. Okay, ready? Should we move on? All right. We had an awesome presentation from the Whatcom Racial Equity Commission at our last meeting. And what we want to do today is just do a follow-up, like we often do, where we have the presentation and we get to go home, think about it, and then we get to reflect. So that's what we're doing right now. And we have a key question that we're going to ask today. You could, Marty,
Yeah,
the
thanks.
question. And this question is, what more do we need to know to help us understand how to address the disparities? And I want to restate that question because it's like, oh, that was interesting, or we need more data here. We did a lot of that at our last meeting, but what we want to be focusing on is, what more do we need to know to help us understand how to address disparities? Right? That's what we're trying to focus on. So it's a big question. So what I'd like to do is go around the circle. If you don't have a comment, that's fine. You can just say pass. Or if you were not here at the last meeting, or you did not read your notes, you can pass, okay? Because we really want to hear from people who saw the presentation, because we're not going to stop and read or, do a review of that. Got it? Mm-hmm. Did you have a comment?
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say like the handout that was in the packet is, yeah, so that's a starting point, so we don't need to duplicate those questions. We're just trying to build on that, right?
Exactly. Everybody, you understand where we are? We're building from where we left off. I'm sure it's all fresh in your mind from a month ago. All right. Helen, would you start us off?
I don't know that I have enough of recollection and I didn't review, so I don't want to send us down a rabbit hole.
Okay, thank you. Miriam?
So some thoughts. I've heard a lot of feedback since then.
Louder.
Okay, so I have some thoughts. I've heard a lot of feedback since our presentation from the meeting and also afterwards, and I just want to a few things. The thing about data is that it tells us one thing, really. Is like, it tells us something. It doesn't really tell us a full narrative unless you have a lot of data that you will analyze things through.
Yeah.
And so what we presented to you all was the racial disparities for Whatcom County in 2023 and 2024. We presented the types of offenses that are the most prevalent in Whatcom County. We also do some disaggregating for the types of offenses. And that's all we really did. We found that in 20, I think the kind of big findings that had a lot of people react was that in 2024, Black and Indigenous people were 9 times more likely to be incarcerated than White people. That was a big finding that felt really probably crunchy and to a lot of people. And I think a lot of you are in these systems. You do this work constantly, so it probably doesn't feel great. And I also want to urge you to try not to distance yourself from those findings, because again, all we did was show that in 2024, Black and Indigenous people were 9 times more likely to be incarcerated in Whatcom County. We did not state why that was, because we cannot make that distinction. We did not make any causational statements. We just said, this is what this means. We did had a mention of this is what it does not mean, which we really wanted to point out, because I think oftentimes when you talk about data and you talk about race, people tend to say, well, if they are more likely, maybe they deserve to be there. And
what we measured is not measure of criminality. It's just who was more likely to be incarcerated in 2023 and 2024. So if you really want to drive that point home, is that data, when presented, are facts. How you interpret it, how you internalize it is entirely something else. So I just want to point that out very clearly. I also want to share something that I said at the last council meeting. That's this psycho, what is it called? It's like a psycho model for thinking about racism, right? Thinking about racial disparities. By this really cool professor, and it's a model he's still developing, but it goes something like racism exists, but not here. And if it's here, it's not me. And if it's me, I didn't mean it. And if I meant it, it's not racist, and I'm not racist. That's just how it is. And this model essentially highlights how easy it is for all of us, regardless of race, to distance ourselves from racial issues. So I hope that you see it with that lens of like, okay, this is on all of us. This is our community. This is on all of us. So when we present things that feel crunchy, we're not pointing fingers, we're not playing the blame. Well, our value at the commission, we don't play the blame game. We just want to know what the heck is actually going on so that we can serve our communities really well. So with that big disclaimer, or I guess that's great.
That was beautiful.
So I just wanted to know that because I got a lot of feedback because I think, you know, it's tough to hear that, you know, hey, we're not doing as well as we thought we were.
Yeah, right.
So just want to name that.
Thank you.
I think for me, the last one was really in appreciating what was done, but also feeling, I think a little bit more stuck in the why. What is it? What's driving it?
Yeah.
And finding myself just wanting to know more about that, because I feel like if I were to go on a soapbox, there's a lot of things that drive it and cause it, and I don't want to drift so far out that I'm down rabbit holes, which I can do by myself if left alone for I think that's what.
I appreciate the presentation of the data. It's not particularly different than the data I've seen before for Washington County. And it's not something that's been addressed in the way that needs to be addressed. So what came up for me personally was, okay, IPRTF needs to figure out a really good cadence for having presentations and investigation as to the law. And fully on board with that, we're setting our calendar for the next year, and we'd really like to figure out ways where we can get people who deal with this sort of data and the whys, and outside the community, inside the community, and I'd really like by the end of the year to have. I'm a very curious person, and I'm very curious about this one. So let's figure it out. And then once we do that, then we actually have the ability to do something about it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was not available for the last meeting at all, so I missed the presentation. I don't have anything particularly poignant, but I do want to understand why, right? Like I want to understand better the reasons why these data say.
My main takeaway was what happens next. We've got data. How do we put this into action? And just an intense curiosity about our decision makers and what steps we can take.
I'm always skeptical of data because you can make it say a lot of different things. Honestly, I don't really know what 9 times more likely means. I don't know whether that means like population by, you know, I don't think that was fully understood by the game, but regardless, those statistics are not surprising to me. We've seen them in other contexts long before this body came together.
Yeah.
It is important to try to understand why, but I think it's also equally important to understand other factors that may be coming into play with those populations, like poverty, homelessness. Those things lead to incarceration as well, and they could be related to racial issues, or they may not be. And I think that any data that you take a look at, you've got to look at other facets of it at the same time before you can fully understand it and understand where it's coming from.
I agree. Like I wasn't surprised by the data. I was like, but I also think that the data is such a small slice of the bigger piece of the pie. I know that you and I have had discussions briefly about, you know, how law enforcement are they responding, or is this a self-initiated activity, and is there a disparity within that? And I think that's speaking from law enforcement side, that's a more interesting, not interesting, but something that we can then control differently potentially, versus, you know, just responding to a call. Is there a distinction in the types of crimes? I think you said like it was DUIs, assault. I went back and I looked because I get a weekly email of all the bookings, so I put everybody and why, and which agencies. I know next month we put on the roster to have an explanation of the new Swift, Fast, and Certain.
Swift, Certain, and Fair, I think.
Certain and Fair that Lummi has now adopted as their, and what does that impact on the numbers of Indigenous people within the jail? And break down, like, is it more tribal police making more arrests of that? Because that, I mean, it's because we have 2 tribes within our jurisdiction utilizing this jail. You know, those are all different factors that can impact that can give a bigger picture as to the why, and then again, what impact can we have on that?
Yeah, and just as far as the question of what do we need to know to help us better understand how to address this, one thing I'd be interested in knowing, racial disparities in the justice system are certainly not a unique issue to Whatcom County. It's a nationwide issue rooted in systemic oppression and inequity, and I don't think we're going to solve that problem right here in this committee probably, but I would be really interested to get some data on what other comparably sized counties are doing nationwide, with similar populations and demographics, with different outcomes and what's different there. Just comparing that way to see what other places are doing, what other jurisdictions are doing, and how that could be applied here, what we can take away from it. I mean, those questions is pretty comprehensive and great. One thing I just don't see on here is looking outside where we live to see what's happening in other parts of the country, because it's a nationwide issue for sure.
Yeah, definitely wasn't there last year, but I did have a chance to watch the presentations fine. But it's always great to have data like that, and I collect a lot of data myself, so it does tell a story, and you can interpret it certain ways, but I think it was pretty clear what it was showing. So it's going to be great to see if we continue to track what kind of patterns we see, or we can ask ourselves why. And yeah, I just thought it was great. So that's about it.
Okay, so let's move on to everyone on the screen. So Hannah, do you want to go?
Yes, I can. I think, and it's really hard to hear, so if I repeat something that somebody has said, I apologize. But I think it might be interesting to explore like when an individual first entered the legal system and how extensive their legal involvement is, because that often impacts the number or type of alternatives that are available to them, which I think would impact the numbers that we're seeing for these disparities. Other than that, I don't think I have anything additional to add from last month's discussion.
Mary Lou? You're muted right now.
Again, I just echo what was said. It's sometimes a little difficult to hear when people are speaking very softly, but I think there are so many factors, and I agree that homelessness, poverty, education, where you grew up, whether you've moved, these are all factors in how somebody interacts with the criminal justice system. And the data on that would be useful.
Dean?
I don't think I have anything to add at this point.
Okay, great. Stephen?
I don't have much to add. I share Stark's views that there are many factors that we need to explore to understand the data and make sure the data are accurate, really. I also share Tasha's point about the importance of understanding the channels by which someone came to be in the jail and parse that data a little more, much more finely than was presented. So there's work to be done.
Thank you, Stephen. Brian? Okay, Brian, I'm going to come back to you. Dan? Okay, Brian, are you ready? Go ahead and unmute yourself and you can go. And Dan, if you're going to be ready after Brian, that'd be awesome. And then Heather, I'll take you after that. So go ahead, Brian.
I didn't have a comment.
Oh, okay. Dan, are you there? All right, we'll see if he comes back. Heather.
I also see, I think Jessica's had her hand up. Do you want to go before me, Jessica? Is that okay, Holly?
I'm not on the committee.
Yeah,
Oh,
waiting to the end. And Jessica, I think if you can take your hand down, that would help. I won't forget you.
okay. I would just add, I guess you asked what more do we need to understand on additional questions, and I would love to understand the booking jurisdictions where the arrests are happening. Because I think that like looking at the kind of the sequential intercept model, thinking of where are these moments to intervene and support somebody in the system and help with a different pathway, like arrest is a really important moment. And if we can get to that level of data and understanding arrest by jurisdiction, by race, and even by officer, then you can actually start to understand, like, is there a frontline systemic training issue that we need to be addressing in a different way as a community? And then, of course, I think there's a giant bucket of like the community health lens of root cause disparities and interrogating those big issues of that Stark mentioned of poverty and drivers of criminal behavior, and what are the different programs and interventions we need to be building and putting in place on the prevention side. And then I'd love to also understand more about the bail and that moment in the system. And if there's racial disparities in how bail is set by different judges. And I do think that first, like looking at that first charge in somebody's record is also really it can be very useful to look at, like, how did somebody enter into the criminal justice system in the first place? You can have those. That's my daughter asking if she can have candy. It's Christmas season, so there's, I think the data, I appreciate really having this conversation, and because we don't want disparities, right? Like that's the big goal. And so, and what are the different windows of layers of information to help us make decisions on policies and programs as a community? So thank you.
Thank you. And Heather, thank you. I think she did such a nice job too, kind of summarizing, you know, the big picture and then the specific intercept points we could be looking at, the overall desire to address it. Jason, I appreciate your suggestion too, that maybe if we can find a community where they have done some interventions that have been successful, that might be great to know about. And Peter, I just want to flag, I'm going to see if there's other comments too. I appreciate what you said about, you know, with the IPRTF, also having the commitment to look at this. So if we are working in tandem, right? The JPOP committee is looking at it, the IPRTF as a whole, in a really nice cadence together. That feels like a really important priority for us all. Yeah, Tasha.
I guess also for the more, the larger, broader, on the other intercepts, primarily number one.
Yeah.
Before, are they engaging with art, and are there disparities in engaging with art and utilizing, and is it because they don't want to or because it's not being offered? Like,
That was a good question. It's one of the questions we have. I think one of the things I also didn't mention is that.
Louder.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So we came at this with very specific goals.
Even louder. I know.
We wanted to identify disparities in incarceration. We're going to understand the reasons for incarceration, understand incarceration trends over time. We want to assess interventions and rehabilitation outcomes, and then support data-driven policy and implementation recommendation. We did not get all the data we asked for. So that was in the limitations of, like, we weren't able to have access to all the data we hoped we were going to have access to. And I also want to drive the point home, like, the Racial Equity Commission is always going to look at race. It's in our name, so kind of have to. It's our task for the county. And so we had all of these goals in this particular analysis. We came out with even more questions than answers.
Yeah.
And so part of those questions are also outlined in this, you know, because we join forces and to essentially talk about. So to your point, that is one of the questions we have. You know, it's like, what is the actual story? You know, and so far, I think this presentation has also sparked people reaching out to us and giving us data from, like, the immersion programs. We've also been receiving data. Like, all of us are just like, okay, we're expanding our knowledge as to what is the data, what do we want to know, and, like, it gives a better picture of what's actually going on. So, you know, as much as, you know, I hear some skepticism about our data, can't really mess up. I mean, we're not telling a story that's not true. We're telling a story that is very true. That it is just that, like, those facts. We're not, you know, assigning any causation to things. We know that there are several factors. I mean, I'm a data nerd, so I know that research-wise, poverty is probably the number one factor. Not probably it is, but last time I checked, is the number one factor for people dealing with incarceration. You know, and most people who are poor are also people of color. And so there's, you know, so I mean, there are ties there for sure. And so I just want to say that we're kind of looking at those questions and we're kind of not duplicating efforts. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. So Marty, you're next, and then see anybody else who has another thing to add, and let's hear him.
I just wanted to express my excitement about the SIM update opportunity coming very soon.
Yeah.
Because I think if we, everybody who participates in that, whoever it is, and I think there'll be there is going to be some kind of application process, but anybody who's there, if you can bring this question about what's happening in every point in the intercept model regarding race and ethnicity, what data exists, or what can we be asking to find out if there are disparities at each level? Because the jail is like, you know, what is that? Intercept 4 or something. There's still 3. There's still 3 others leading up to it, 2 others leading up to it, and the post, and what happens after jail that leads back to jail. And we got to just look at every single intercept, and we have a chance to do it. So that's cool. Were you going to say something else, Tasha? No, Pamela.
I didn't have any.
Oh, I thought you.
Sorry. Yeah, start. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, you know, bail is such an important part of this situation. You may find 2 similarly situated individuals that come into the jail, and one can make bail and the other one can't. And study after study has shown that the people who are released from custody are less likely to be convicted, are less likely to lose their job, or less likely to lose their family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas the person that has stayed in jail because of poverty it is far more likely to have that happen, and then it compounds upon itself, because then if those same 2 people come back in again, this person has a conviction and that person doesn't. Perhaps this person has to failure to appear in court and gets a higher bail. But what I've been particularly interested in this area is whether 2 people similarly situated get treated differently in terms of bail, which results in different outcomes. And I'm not sure how you would study that, because there's no such thing as 2 similarly situated people. People are infinitely varied from one another. You know, but I think that you could look at trends. You know, there could be a particular judge that tends to set a higher bail for a different group of people than others, or, you know, but it would be a complicated thing to study. It couldn't be just done on a case-to-case basis. It would have to be a much wider trend than that. But I didn't just want to get off my chest that bail is an incredibly important part of this discussion.
I guess a clarifying question on that. Yeah. You said that a person that can bail out is less likely to be convicted.
Yes.
So that it just is resolved, or if found not guilty, or it just goes away.
The victims lose interest in the case. A person who's held in custody is in a hurry to plead out because they can get out of jail if they plead out. It doesn't put the same pressure on the defendant when they are not in the jail.
But the defendant,
they try.
But there was never analysis of like the charge just goes away.
Yeah, that happens.
No, I know it happens. I'm aware that it happens. Like, I know there's plea part. I'm just wondering how, like, I hadn't heard it said that way. I guess maybe I get that. Like, if I've arrested someone and they've got 5 other charges, it's like, yeah, well, plead guilty to this one and we'll make these other ones go away. I just didn't know if that's what you're referring to.
You arrest somebody and they make bail, and 6, 8, 10 months goes by and your witnesses aren't available to you anymore, or aren't interested in cooperating, or the prosecutor leaves the office and the next prosecutor doesn't care about the case. When just speaking as a defender, when people are in the jail, it is a much more pressurized situation to move the case forward. And Caleb could probably tell you about that. And nobody wants to sit in the jail for 2 years waiting for their case to come to trial. People don't have any problem sitting at home for 2 years waiting for their case to come to trial. It's just a human nature, I guess.
Right, so.
In a big voice.
Everybody needs to speak up for the people at home.
So, what we're looking at, where do we even begin to find bail data lines?
Well, and every single day there are first appearances where bail is set, and records are kept of those first appearances and when bail is set out. And you know, I think you probably just have to PDR the jail to get that information. I'm not sure if we could generate that from our case management system. It's possible, but I'm probably not the person to ask. But I mean, in this day and age, there are sources of that information. You know, and PDR is probably the easiest way to get it.
Well, what would it be?
Really, you might be able to do it, or you can just go to the hearings. They're all open. And jot down the information that you want to jot down, but that's fine. So.
And you want to get a big sample. Yeah.
Good idea. It's like, what of all the data that we could get, what's going to be most benefit, most important, and some of it'll take more time and be harder than other bits, right? Yeah, Caleb.
I just want to say the record for jail data specifically. The jail is a repository for information, many times not the generator of that information. And one challenge that I think we'll find is that specifically we're talking about bail. We do not track every aspect of bail in the jail. We only keep track of the most recent change. And we don't keep historical information. So you might not get the most accurate information if you look at the jail data. There are originators of data for bail, and the administrative office supports, or perhaps Odyssey, that have better information that can lead to come up with these specifics about not just the initial bail amounts, but history of bail amounts.
Yeah,
that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's a caution because again, the jail is not a originator of all of the data. So sometimes that leaves an incomplete picture.
Thanks for that clarification.
I'm looking at the jail's roster online right now, and you can pull up the cause number, the charge they were arrested on, what amount of bail was set on that charge. So you can get rudimentary information just on with.
Folks are looking at it, but that's an accessible way of looking at it. Because you have to go every day and jot down all the information.
Well, it wouldn't give you demographics either.
Okay. So to my point, there's stuff that we would really like to have that are at juncture points and intercept that may be easier and maybe harder, but I think we're really diving in some good questions. And it's a good segue. You guys are ready? Should you segue? So first, let us thank you, Miriam, and the Racial Equity Commission for bringing this forward and helping move forward. And we're going to shift now. It's very timely because we want to talk about our action plan. So what we've got here, can you look at it? Yes. This is something we started to construct, thinking about kind of the timing of things and what we can fit in. It can change as the year goes along, of course, but we'd love to get some feedback right today and just vote to approve it as like a good starting point is our goal. So what we're looking for right now is, if you want to pop it up, as per our implementation plan, project 1, we're part of the implementation plan. We contribute to the ensuring the oversight, accountability, and transparency in the implementation of all other projects. So that's our big picture of what we're doing here. And then we have all of these ways that we do it. So we serve as a forum for people with lived experience of all different types. That's what we've got here. We're participating in the development of the evaluation plan. Let's just take a moment and say, yeah, we did that and we're good. Now we're in this one, right? That little blue one. We're going to start looking at, okay, now we have our implementation plan. How are we going to start monitoring that data? What data is most important? And then, of course, always every year we have to prepare our annual report. This year, it's in the air that we want to look at possibly updating the implementation plan itself. So we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but it seems like maybe there's enough there that we want to do a refresh on that. And then last but not least, ensuring that public engagement and communications are robust. So we have Riley, that's a huge help. And we want to just keep thinking about that, and just our presence here in and of itself contributes. So see how this lines up for you. So this is Marty and I trying to listen to what we were hearing from our last discussion as the top priorities. So number 1, utilizing the panel presentations I'm just going to read from here. involving people with lived experience in the criminal legal system to gather more in-depth understanding of gaps and barriers and strategies to address them. So I feel like this whole last year was this huge, like, okay, now these panels, now we have something to work with, right? Didn't you feel like we kind of like, oh, okay, we got our groove on? And so the top 3 priorities that we were hearing for panel discussions were the effectiveness and accessibility of our diversion programs, and now especially with this, looking at it through a racial lens, coordination across the criminal legal system and community support services. We can close some of those gaps, and reduction of racial disparities overall. So how does that sound? Like, yes, more panels, and yes, these are the topics. Do you have anything you'd like to add there? Okay, let's keep going. We're happy with that. Second priority, monitoring the data to track progress on the implementation plan projects. So we've already, one of the things we've been trying to do is just very systematically making sure we're getting the reports, looking at those reports, and paying attention to what matters in those reports. So this is just the list of all these things over that's last year that we got integrated and in a rhythm. So all those are there. And with the addition of the SIM this year. By the way, is Dean still here? Somebody told me that we are going to get an application. So if you want to be part of the SIM Intercept workshop, we're going to be providing an opportunity to apply, because a lot of people are going to want to do it, but everyone on the JPOP will have an opportunity to throw their hat in the ring and maybe get selected. Okay, next. And as I said earlier, participating in some way, we don't know exactly how, but in that update. Okay, top priorities. Make sense? Does that seem right? Okay. So here we have each month of the year is laid out, but check it out that the idea is for January and February, we really focus on whoop. There we are. Yeah. The focus on kind of digging deeper into the element of racial disparities, looking at the indigenous populations, what programs, what's happening for them with that swift, certain, and fair approach, right? And then looking from people from the Lummi Nation and Nukesik Indian tribe on their experience, if we can find people who'd like to come and speak with us. So those would be the idea of how we deepen on that topic. And there's a whole bunch more throughout the year. I'm not going to keep on presenting. What I like to do is just hear from all this stuff we've got going on. This next question, please. What's missing? And do you have any questions or concerns about this as just basically an overview of what we do next year? What else isn't there that you'd like to make sure happens?
Can I say something? I know but what seems to be missing is the mental health, which seems to be the biggest issue with all of the surveys, and I mean, and that falls into that racial disparity, disabilities, poverty, also in terms of like what would be in a panel, a panel discussion.
Okay. All right. So possibly looking at mental health. Did you have a specific thing of what you think would be good to look at?
Well, again, it shows, just like he was talking about, the longer they're there, the worse they get and the more they are likely to reoffend or be back in the system. And as a felony is a bit of a death sentence to a poor person, because then they can't find a home, they can't get certain jobs, and it's even worse for disabled or mentally ill people. And so that's something that elephant in the room, I suppose, right, that needs to be looked at. There is no forgiveness, really, I mean, for people that are felons. And so they end up back in the system.
So that kind of diversion is also making me think if we're going to have opportunities to look more deeply at what the BCC, the behavioral, what part of that with the jail and BCC, what programs are going to be there, how well is that going to work? I bet we could play something with that. Okay, what else?
Dan.
Oh, Dan, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Holly, can you go back?
Yeah.
like one slide or two slides.
Yep.
But right there, hold on. Let's see, panel discussion.
Yeah, and this is only showing January and February, Dan.
Okay, that's your first couple of months in the first quarter.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then can you go back one more?
Yep,
Two more. Sorry.
it's okay.
Okay, okay. I guess one thing I don't see, and maybe I just missed it, is prosecutorial diversion programs. Is something that we might want to talk about, at least for context. And that would be like, community court or mental health court, any kind of diversion program, or people going into the lead program, or grace program. So just to have those as context items, they don't have to be the first quarter, but I think that we do need to just kind of touch on those items again.
And have those as panel discussion or presentations, maybe for folks who are involved. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so we do get those presentations over at the task force for the incarceration prevention task force, but I think it'd be beneficial for JPOP to have at least some semblance of context for the importance and the value of and the role that the prosecutor's office plays in these discussions that we're having currently.
Got it. Okay, other suggestions? Go ahead, Peter.
This is so if you're interested in
Louder.
If you're interested in behavioral health.
Even louder.
If you're interested in behavioral health, I'm not yelling at you. We have a behavioral health committee, which is a public meeting, and I would highly encourage you to either go to the meeting or attend the meeting, and you can also speak at the end for 3 minutes, but very interesting conversations going on there as well. And the Legal and Justice Committee as well. Great opportunity to learn a lot about what's going on in Washington around those issues.
And Dan, whose face is right there, and Brian, who spoke before, our co-chairs of the Behavioral Health Committee.
Thank you. They meet monthly or bi-monthly?
Are you switching to bi-monthly meetings, Dan?
We're going to decide that in January. Pardon me. But currently this last year we were monthly. We did cancel a couple of meetings just because it's really hard to put together a meaningful agenda, and we didn't want to waste the time of our members. So we're making that decision. Brian and I and Raylene King over at the Legal and Justice, we're all kind of trying to figure out what that meeting schedule looks like. I just think it would be super informative for JPOP to either watch the meetings that have already happened. We just had one this last week with a joint meeting, and for example, we had the Digualich folks come, and there was, I scheduled 25 minutes of discussion and went for 45 minutes, and so there's just a high level of curiosity, and there's enough blending and kind of spillover between the task force and JPOP that I just want to make sure that we cover all the bases.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another great opportunity is we have maybe 7 times given a presentation on the Behavioral Care Center and all the features that that we're wanting to put into that. That is a great place to put some effort into giving feedback. We are also having these public engagements around the jail and the BCC. Got 2 more of them, as Bradley was talking about. So those are 2 more opportunities, one in February, one in May, perhaps, we don't know. And if the first one is likely going to be Linden, and the next in Bellingham.
And at the risk of putting an exclamation mark at the end of that statement, the biggest impact the community can have is at this phase in the project. Once we're looking at blueprints and the contractor is digging up the ground out there, it's much harder for the community to make a real systemic change in what the end result is going to be. But right now, when we're deciding the big questions about these justice project facilities, now is the time in which we can have the most impact downstream. And I cannot say that enough.
Yeah, what's the timeline approximately on that?
So, with the understanding that every project manager pulls a gun on me when I start saying dates out loud. Ish, right? So I want giant imaginary like asterisks floating around these statements. The validation phase, which is when we decide, is behavioral care center going to be on at the jail site? Is it going to be a division street? Is it going to be in this building? Is it going to be in that building? What's going to be in the jail, right? Those big picture questions, that all happens in the validation phase, which is right now through till like June, July 2026, in which the council will be involved in some of that decision. I am not going to speak to those specifics for fearing the wrath of Kayla.
Okay.
But there will be a process. You'll be involved in that decision-making process. Next is the design phase, and that goes from summer 2026 till when things are dry enough to start building in 2027. And that's when they're doing the blueprints, right? And deciding how many rooms and where the pods go and all those details. And then hopefully we're breaking ground in 2027. And it'll take at least a year to build a facility.
So I've only what everyone's shared so far, and I'm realizing I should probably speak up. Good job.
Thank you.
So those were some of my questions that everyone spoke about. But for me, I would really love for the J-pop space to include more updates from other committees and meal groups more frequently. I'd love to hear from the FL. I'd love to hear the kinds of conversations and presentations you're having at the IPRTF. I love the idea of us creating more context about the different types of the river programs. That is one thing that we did not present on, but is in our report that's coming out tomorrow, probably. Which I'll send, and you should definitely read it. It's way more thorough than the presentation we gave. It goes in depth. So I just really want to see more updates, because I think it's extremely hard for all of us to be in all of these meetings all the time. And I try my very best, and I've been able to catch some things and inform the commission and community members like, oh, actually, like they've like already started talking about this, when we're like, they're not even talking about the behavioral care center, which fair, but also like those conversations are happening, and like now is the time. To your point, Riley. So I just want to hear about things more often in the space, so we are better informed and we can share it with our people in a different intercept. Also, I think my next question was, when are decisions being made and by who? And my question was timeline, please. So I love the putting like validation phase versus design phase, because then it tells me, okay, for people who are more interested in these things, then we can do outreach and essentially mobilize the community to have a more participatory process for the general meeting of this center. That's my, so if you could add that in the agenda.
Well, oh, see, you did it, Marty. You're so intuitive. But these are the ones we've already programmed in.
Yes.
Right? As coming back regularly. So the county executive's quarterly reports, the JLBCC design process reports and presentations, and maybe even like some input opportunities at juncture points, Riley. This is to you. Like, if you could flag, like, are there times where we can give input on any pieces that would be awesome?
I'm not shy about letting people know when there's opportunities.
Okay. But if they could also come here, then we've got the SIM update, the data dashboard development. That's like what we talked about before. Maybe the index committee, which is another one of the IPRTF committees, could help with that in that phase. We've got FAB presenting regularly as well. So I think it's, maybe with some of these, in complement to the panels, we could just have more of the committees that are closest to that action come in and share some thoughts about what they're saying. Marty, did you have an idea?
No, I think that sounds good. And I think to the extent that we have crossover, with committees, it would be a way to do little updates, like Peter sits on the FAB and Heather and Tank, who are all part of this committee, and IPRTF. So where there are things that are newsworthy, we can maybe just have members present, or you and I could just try to make lists and bring that news here. We'll have to think of the best way to do it. But just so you all know, all IPRTF meetings, not only are they public, but so if you don't have time to go to that meeting, there's a meeting summary and the video itself posted online, and you can at least peruse the meeting summary and get the gist for any IPRTF stuff that's going on. So.
And I'd like to say we did not have a bad meeting this month, I think because of the flood.
Yeah.
The darn flood has stopped us from having that meeting, but I was too happy to, as Tank and Heather would, I'm sure, talk each month about what happens in that.
Difficulties, please hang on instead of assuming
Okay.
all got swept away.
Hi, we're having some technical difficulties. Please hang on. So everything, Marty's computer just died. It's rebooting. And so it's just yeah, we're still going to continue here. And I don't know why this happened last time. You walk in this room, it's warm, it's cozy, it's comfortable, and it gets colder and cold. Have you noticed? Same thing every time. I'm just, what? You've got your gloves on. Okay, so what I'm hearing, more reports, more a sense of connectivity with the system. This idea of maybe spending some time on prosecutorial diversions, continuing to make a high connectivity with the jail BCC process, seeing where mental health, behavioral health can fit in. We have some flexibility. My question, do you have anything else you want to say at this point? Looking at you on the screen too. Yes, Dan. And you're muted right now, but if you unmute, I think
I'm
I
sorry.
can hear you.
Okay, better?
Maybe.
Okay.
Oh, I can hear you now. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm sorry about that. So I think it's more of a process question when it comes to recommendations that would affect budgetary or budgets rather for small cities or the city of Bellingham. When it comes to the example that comes to mind is in custody versus out of custody for behavioral care center. And so
Okay.
out of custody means that there's a high likelihood that Medicaid can reimburse, and then that wouldn't come out of the city's budget. In custody means that we would have to pay for the person while they're in the BCC. And so so my question, I guess, is how do we arrive at recommendations, and how do we make sure that we're very informed when it comes to these types of recommendations that are going to absolutely affect budgets? And I mean, I don't know how we would pay for a straight up in custody. So could we do like a hybrid, that kind of thing? How do we arrive at those recommendations? So it's a process question, but it has very important downstream effects for cities.
Okay, so for people who are working in the world of the BDC and jail design most closely, I'm gonna just, this is especially important for you to pick up on. So Dan is suggesting that those questions of if the BCC is in custody or not out of custody is gonna have a lot of impacts, right? So to make sure that we get a time to discuss that and have input on that early on is what I'm hearing, or at the right time. Yeah,
I just
do you have
want to
your?
point out that
Mhm.
Incarceration Prevention Reduction Task Force and the FAB,
Yep,
they have recommended out of custody for the BCC.
And that does seem to be the growing consensus.
okay.
And that has been presented to the county council for their consideration.
There's lots of head nods.
Okay, everybody catch that? Did you also catch that Peter just suggested, and I kind of want to test here, that the FAB could do a quick report at every meeting that when they have met? Do you want to hear more often from them if they have something to say? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So if there's something, we're going to just make a little space for that. All right, so what I'm going to ask for agreement on now at this point is to approve the action plan / calendar, knowing that it will probably shift. Yes, Marie?
Is it possible for you to hit record?
It's still recording.
Good.
Yeah, we're good. That this died, but this didn't die. I mean, we're still recording, we're still on Zoom. What I'd like to do is ask for agreement on this. And with the assumption that we'll try and focus on the experience of the Indigenous community and learn about that program that Dan, the safe, what is it? I can't remember it. That one. We'll try and get those panels at the beginning of the year, right? Everything else we'll just kind of adjust as we go. So, yeah, start. Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a whole separate aspect of this project that's been concerning me, and that's the operational aspects of it once it's built.
Of the jail and BCC. Yep.
We just talked about the fact that the consensus is to have the BCC be an out of custody facility, and it's more than just a consensus. It has to be that way, because the only way it's going to fly is with Medicaid dollars to pay for the services that those folks are going to get in there. And, you know, we all know that Medicaid, it's particularly for our clients, are, you know, is in some jeopardy right now. And I'm just feeling like 2026, that's a time that somebody ought to start looking at what the operational plan is here for both the jail and the BCC, where the money's going to come from, where the people are going to come from. You know, it's tremendously difficult to hire staff these days, you know, in just about every department in the county, and perhaps the city's in the same boat. I don't know, but I guess I just kind of like to throw that out there, that maybe is an aspect of this project that we should be taking a look at in 2026.
Good, so noted. Okay, so we've had a question in it, and what else?
Quick thing.
Yep.
Does the JPOP have Lummi Nation and the sacrifice seats?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we have
Attendees from Lummi Nation who aren't here today, but not an official member, but William Lucero and Rosa Hunter have been attending. And then we have an official member of Nooksack who checks in on the notes, but can't attend the meetings, but we've kept it.
I'd love for them to also get a chance to answer these questions. So when you're following up with them, yeah, to get that info, because I know how, you know, building those relationships and not
Yeah, great point.
build is, you know, it's a long term, you know.
Good, so we'll do that for the folks who weren't here, especially from Nooksack and Lummi, to make sure they have input on what we're going to be talking about, especially because we're hoping for involvement in the first 2 meetings of January. Okay, so this is a call for agreement then. At this point, Marty, you're looking at me like,
Do we need to, I
made a
think
motion
we
to
need,
agree.
yeah,
Seconded.
and seconded.
you're not a member. Riley.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion? And people online, I'm watching for you, so take off, you know, you're going to give a sign in a minute. Any discussion? Okay, can you give your assent by saying aye or a thumbs up or raise your hand? Any of those will work. A visual is good though. Good, okay. Good, all in favor, yes. Assent, all in favor. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, you have an action
Did the
plan.
people-
Boom. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
watching. I'm
thank
watching
you.
them. We're good. I love hybrid meetings. Love them. Okay, we are now at, oh my gosh, we're right at time. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Huh? Jessica, she's not there. What? We've been waiting this whole time. Okay, Jessica, we'll have to come back to you. Alrighty, let's have public comment. Elizabeth, do you have a comment?
I only wonder about your plan is just like what else needs to be decided by that June date and to work backwards from that. So that's why I was just kind of curious, like, were there other questions that were on people's minds?
Let's talk.
Okay.
Yeah, good, thank you. Do you have a comment?
I'm just here to observe.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Okay.
And where are you
Linda?
from? I'm sorry.
I'm with the Herald.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Hannah's been doing really excellent articles tracking the Justice Project,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really glad that you're interested and show up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, thank you to Hannah. Okay, Brenda, anything you'd like to share?
I'll pass for now. Thanks.
Okay, great. Anybody else in the room who's
I asked
public?
you, Corey, how you thought of our first meeting?
I loved it. I didn't want to step in and say anything this first meeting, just kind of take it as an opportunity to observe, but definitely got my gears working, and I can recognize a lot of what you guys are saying, as I've taken a lot of courses in the criminal justice system at school and stuff, so being able to hear like an actual community talk about like art and all these things that I've been researching about, and being like, why don't more people know about these things, and like hearing everybody talk about it and advocate for it is just great, and I can't wait to help contribute and build more. Yeah.
Do you want to tell what you're doing with school, like
Yeah.
what school you go to?
Yeah, I go to Walker Community College. I'm just gonna do my general AA, but I specialize in more CJ criminal justice related classes. I've taken most of my classes with Dr. Michael McHenry, which some of you may know him. And I just love that environment and to be a part of that. And down the road, I hope to go to some college, most likely out of state, to study forensic anthropology, because I think a really important part of the justice system that's often overlooked is looking at the people who have passed away in some way due to things related to crime, whether it be drug overdoses, domestic abuse, anything like that. I think those are all really important things to look at to help find the roots and causes. So I really hope to get into that someday, to kind of get my hands on that level of looking at statistics and information and then finding solutions. But right now I was just really drawn towards this committee as a way to like get my hands on being a part of the justice system or whatever in some way, especially as like a youth representative at a young age. Yeah.
Great.
So glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments that people want to say in the time we have left? 3:51. Let's do just closing comments. We'll do a little round. Anybody on the screen? Would you like a closing comment? Okay, then I'm going to go around the room. Pamela, closing comment. Bye, Caleb.
Bye, Caleb.
Aw, what? Okay.
I really appreciate the conversation on racial justice, bringing that into the conversation, and keeping it highlighted in the conversation. I don't think it can be said enough, often enough. That's a focus that we need to have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I think, I've said a lot of it. I want to add that, I've also heard that all these are things we knew, and I also feel a bit of pushback still, even though people say these are things they knew, but there's a little bit of pushback about how bad things actually are, and I just want you all to not try to distance too much from it. I really want to stress that, because this is on all of us, myself included. We live in this community. please, if you have access to data, like that's the only way we actually figure out the nuances. And so I'm excited for people who have sent us data. I'm excited for people like, Marlon and Holly doing the work together, all sorts of data so that we get a better understanding. I'm also excited for the potential of getting a better understanding to also affect the way we go about the behavior care center and how important that part is in the Justice Project. Yeah. And I'm cold.
Yeah, this room. Okay, next time we'll find a warmer room. And Jessica just made it back on. Okay, Jessica, you're here. I'm going to turn you up as loud as I can.
Thanks. My initial question was really quick and kind of in the slides from the Village Reach report. I think it was the second PowerPoint you shared. And I was wondering, it looks like you're looking or designing a role. I'm curious, like if people are interested in doing that, how do they talk about that? I'm interested in how to communicate with that person and more of this project, especially if you're not part of this committee. And then I think, sorry, I got a little thrown off my rhythm because the Zoom call dropped out. But when you were talking about like what's missing and having that conversation, I work kind of in social systems. So the reason I moved to town is to go to school at Western. And I've been in these conversations where there's kind of this discrepancy between the experience in the community and kind of like how things are being talked about and some of the programs that are developed to address some issues, things like mental health issues, homelessness. So that's kind of, I'm in a lot of conversations and I've been having these ideas around how to approach that discrepancy and some concerns about just the structure of systems and how they're impacting people. I really appreciate people talking about the data that's missing around, like, is there a judge or a jurisdiction where arrests are more common, and also talking about what are trends, especially in recidivism cycles. I have done some academic work in anti-recidivism cycles, and that was very qualitative. So I'm really interested in people's stories and what are the patterns in these stories and how are they interacting with data and how does data contextualize these stories, or how is data contextualized by these stories. And that's something that in the community conversations I'm having is really, people feel like the voices of the people in the system are not really being presented fully. And I just want that to be on the radar, I think. It sounds like there's a lot of decisions happening right now to shape things. So I'm also just really curious about how to more effectively engage with that process before, especially like building design decisions are made.
Great, thank you. And Jessica, where are you hailing from? Are you associated with an organization?
I have a consulting firm called Winged Along Collaboratory. I'm kind of a free agent. I'm trying to figure out how I'm working and using my degree from Western locally. And I'm really kind of in this nascent stage with that. That said, I've been doing a lot of community mapping and talking to people specifically about the jail project. There's a lot of energy and concern around the jail project right now. So it's just become something that's really alive in the community conversations I've been having.
Awesome, great. I'm so glad you came today. Could you guys hear pretty well? And thank you for speaking up. We all heard you.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Way to connect Jessica with me. I would really like to.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities. We have set up this system to address so many of the things that you're talking about.
Yep.
And so I want to make sure she has every opportunity to participate.
Good. Okay, so I'm gonna suggest that that we make sure in a best way to do this is maybe just in the notes. Are you on, for people who come to the public comment? On our list. So I wonder, can you just go to the Justice Project Oversight and Planning Committee page and
sign, there's a place over on the right side of the page where you can click and add your email for getting more information about the JPOP. But then when
Okay.
you do that, if it's okay with you, I can pass your info to Miriam and Peter. Is that all right?
Yeah, that would be great. I'll do that right after this.
The form will go to the county and then it will come to me. And I'll
Okay.
get you on our email list and then I'll get it to those guys, okay?
What was your name?
I'm Marty Solomon.
Marty. Okay.
So,
Thanks.
so that we leave on time, I'm just gonna say, any closing comments? Anything else? Okay, well, we hope that everybody stays safe, and look, there's more cookies. And I'm gonna turn on the Christmas music.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming online, people. And we'll turn this Zoom off now.